105 Chicago Now. And you know, by this time in the morning, it is like basically lunchtime / dinner time for all of us. So I'm starving. And whenever we have food on the morning show, we indulge.
Oh, God,
we eat
yes.
the stuff. Okay, so this is kind of a fun story. So we had Omar Citos. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a restaurant, savory Latin American goodness, on the show this morning. And he was fantastic, by the way. Omar was so nice. Big fan of Jake.
I'm a big fan of his. He was great.
Yeah, so he told me he had these desserts out along with like all of these beautiful sandwiches made with plantains and with bread. But he told me he had a dream one night of a passion fruit, what is this called?
Guava?
Parfait.
Guava.
Parfait, guava. Passion fruit guava. And so he reached out to his friend who has a bakery, Alicia's Sweet Treats. She's the owner and baker, and she literally made one for him. So I told him I gotta tell this story and have you guys try a little bite.
Oh my gosh.
Are you embarrassed to eat on screen?
So, yeah, but I'll do it anyway.
Aw, Jake.
She's got us fresh
I don't think I've ever
forks and
seen
everything, Caitlin.
Jake eat on
And then
TV.
there's no double dipping because we got our fresh.
Get all the way down there, Ponce.
He double
from
dipped the
bottom.
chip.
Yeah, double dipping is not.
It's frowned upon in these circles.
Yeah.
I feel like all you got is
We
cream.
can't get sick and then spread the germs, you know? Somebody's got to do the job.
Oh, Jake got a way better bite than me.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yes. So.
Yeah. Good?
Very
I'd say
good.
that's
Passion
strong to quite strong.
What does that
Jake?
mean?
What do you mean? What do you? I'm not sure how you're using those.
Meet the parents.
Oh, strong.
Strong.
Quite
strong.
Quite strong.
I don't know what that means. Is that
It is an obscure movie reference, which is 90% of how guys communicate.
That's good.
Random.
Lucky is Caitlin right now to be wedged
I'm
in between
so
the two
lucky.
of us right now.
This
Caitlin, I'm going to steal this from you.
That was good.
All right. Speaking
really
of
good.
indulging
Yeah. Okay, well, now we can talk about the show, I guess.
and taking in calories,
That's good.
we all know somebody who is on the whole semi-glutide
Yes.
kick.
The loose- yeah.
Ozempic, Wegovy.
Sure.
Well, I just learned moments ago that there is something at play here.
Oh.
in
I see
terms
the
of-
wheels turning as to
Oh,
how
what
you're
are
going to
we-
progress.
what are we
I'm
saying?
trying to phrase this politely, but I'm just going to read copy
Okay.
to avoid personal responsibility.
I'm nervous. What is it? Let me
You
read
know
it too.
Ozempic as the drug people turn to for weight loss.
Sure.
But now people are turning to plastic surgeons to reverse some of its unaffected effects on patients' faces.
What? Oh.
We are speaking with a leading Chicago plastic surgeon about the growing trend of, and this is in quotes, Ozempic face.
Interesting.
Ozempic face.
Which I'd never heard of until just a few moments ago.
Just a few moments. I just heard about it before the show. It's a thing, and what can be done about it?
What is
Now,
Ozempic face?
Ozempic face is loss of volume in the face.
So you look older.
So people look older when they lose volume. I think there's a gaunt appearance.
Interesting.
Okay, so this is what we're going to dive
Interesting.
into, Ozempic face. And then a little bit later on, I've heard of this, children who lives with this thing called synesthesia. You guys familiar with this
No.
phrase?
No.
No.
Synesthesia is where instead of, like when you hear a number, your brain sees a color.
Oh.
Or when you hear about a color, your brain maps it onto something different. So this is really cool because we're going to speak with a woman who I actually this is an awesome thing. When she hears music, she sees visuals along with hearing the music. Her brain, I don't know if we'd say, I kind of compare it to those screensavers that used to be, I think, on Windows, certain Windows models where
The color would dance.
But like to music.
To
You could have-
music,
yeah, and it would. Yeah, I know. I remember exactly what you're
it would
talking about.
interpret the music visually.
Yeah.
And this is what her brain is just wired to do.
That's fun.
So we're going to tap into our artistic sides with her because there's been some real pretty notable musicians that have heard about her converting these songs into these amazing pieces of visual art. Rufus Du Sol, who performed at Lollapalooza over the weekend.
Yeah,
as one of
Saturday.
the bands. Yeah, they performed Saturday. Is aware of this rare neurological condition, and Miss Sarah Craning, who's going to run us through some of her artwork and how this affects her life and
Wow.
everything. So
Amazing.
we're going to speak with her in the studio.
She should have done that sound bath that day. Remember?
Oh, right.
Wow.
Can you
that I
imagine
did.
Yeah.
what she would see
Oh my gosh!
she did
If
that?
she closed her eyes, it would just because I actually got a little bit of
Yeah.
some visuals there
Right.
too. So I think everyone's brain can kind of do it, but this is like
all the time.
It just
All
makes
the
you think
time.
about all the stuff happening up there that we haven't even unlocked
I know.
yet, that we don't understand that's happening, that
Right.
Fun to
that
think. I
we'll
can't wait
find
to
out
talk
in
to her.
years.
and
For some people, less than others.
yeah, exactly.
No, don't you,
Today,
even.
today I have a muddy brain today.
That's Tuesday.
You're fun.
You know.
You're fun.
Tuesdays are muddy brain
some
days.
calories here. We'll get you back on track. But before
Sugar,
we get
sugar,
to all
sugar.
that exciting stuff, we got Jake
We
Hamilton.
got
My man.
Jakey.
Who is joining us? Man, this is a fascinating interview you have this
Thank
week.
you. Thank you. This
James
is
Cameron,
cool.
run us through why you were talking with James Cameron, why you got the Chicago exclusive.
Yeah,
there.
he only did a handful of interviews. We're the only TV station in the country that he spoke with,
What?
which was a big
Amazing.
a big honor. Yeah, the
Great
only
get,
the only
Jake.
local TV
Is
station.
it because you have his phone number and you texted him?
Here's what I'll tell you. I first interviewed James Cameron when I was 19 or 20 years old, a while back. I'm 37 now, so it's been I've been
25
able.
years ago?
One time
Couple decades.
I interviewed James Cameron once at 2:00 in the morning in London because I had to sit around and wait for him to ascend from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean and be flown. I got to there and they said, "Well, you're going to have to wait because
my
he's
gosh.
he's
He did
coming
the
up.
Titanic?
He's coming up." I don't think he was going down to the Titanic. I think he was down there doing something else.
Okay.
But he was. I mean, that's just what he does. He just
Yeah.
goes down. But he had to ascend from the bottom of the Atlantic
Wow.
and then be flown to London and then
Wow.
sat down with me
And
at
you
like
waited
2
for
o'clock
him
in
the
the
whole time?
Yeah, just sat down and waited for him. Yeah, actually, I think Natalie Bomke I think has a signed book from that interview because I was like, because Natalie's a huge Titanic fan. But the reason that I spoke with James Cameron is there's this new book coming out that just came out today called Ghost of Hiroshima. And it's coming out this week because this week marks 80 years since the dropping of the bomb at Hiroshima and then just 3 days later at Nagasaki. And this book tells the story from the perspective of those who were on the ground, real life stories of people who experienced and survived the bombing, and in 160 cases survived both, because there are about 160 accounts of people who survived Hiroshima and then for one reason or another got on a train, went to Nagasaki, and then were there 3 days later when the second bomb dropped. So after Avatar 3 opens in theaters later this year, James Cameron is going to set his sights on adapting this novel into his next movie. And there might be people who say, well, this is the guy who made Aliens, and he made The Terminator, and he made Titanic and Avatar. What does this guy know about adapting, such a serious
story.
topic
Yeah.
like this? But, Anthony and I, you and I were talking about this. If you go back to his earliest films, The Terminator, T2, a huge plot point in those movies is nuclear war and the impact that nuclear war has on our society. So whenever I spoke with James, I brought up the fact that the very first scene of his I ever saw as a kid was the recreation of the remnants of a nuclear war, and really it's been a theme of his work for almost 40 years. I gotta tell you, my first introduction to your films was my parents taking me to see Terminator 2 Judgment Day in theaters, which means the first scene of yours I ever watched, if you think about it, was a world ravaged by a nuclear bomb. And here we are, we're 35 years later, you're gearing up to tackle the subject again in a very different way. But I'd love to know, what is the difference between the filmmaker who told the story of the power of nuclear power 35 years ago in a fictional sense versus the filmmaker who's gearing up to tell the history of Hiroshima today?
Look, I've been thinking about this theme for a long time, since I was a kid. I was expressing that. I was, having kind of a cathartic reaction to that when I was making The Terminator, and then obviously with Terminator 2, when Sarah's at the chain link fence and she gets incinerated and then blasted by the shockwave. I wanted to make it quite visceral for people. How am I different now? I don't know. I only hope that I know enough or have learned enough as a filmmaker to be able to do this subject justice. I certainly can, I know how to do the visual effects and all that. That's not really the issue. The issue is how to tell this as a human story and yet be truthful to what happened, to the horrific aspect of it, It'll be challenging to both be honest and authentic about what it was like, because to me that's the point of this. What was it like to witness nuclear weapon. I want it to be visceral. I want it to be powerful. At the same time, how do I achieve some kind of poetic or spiritual level to it?
It takes longer.
That kind of rises above that in terms of storytelling. I don't know. It's going to be
Fascinating.
So, I mean, it's really an interesting perspective when you think about how long this is a topic that has fascinated him, and you sort of look at, how the themes have been buried in some of his past films. Now, I mentioned that this movie is going to happen after Avatar 3 comes out later this year, and when it hits theaters, however many years from now, it will be his first non-Avatar movie in about 30 years, which is pretty insane because he's been doing Avatar for almost 3 decades, which is because that's how long it took to get the technology to that point, and then there was like a 15-year gap between Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. So
that's right.
It took a while, and if you think back, the last film he made before the most recent, before Avatar 1, I guess, was also a big screen recreation of a moment in history, of course, 1997's Titanic, which not just became the highest grossing film of all time, it also won, it has the record tied for most Academy Award wins with 11, which is, pretty remarkable. And you guys know I love creating these segments called The Moments That Made Us, where I talk with the people who are a part of, in some form or fashion, just those moments in movie history when you watch them and you go, God, I remember where I was, what theater I was when I saw that. So having the chance to talk with James Cameron, I wanted to talk to him about one of the most iconic moments of his career, because there's plenty to choose from, but this one specifically from the movie Titanic.
They said you might be up here. Give me your hand, please.
And I look back at the most iconic movie moments of all time with the people that gave them to us, and God knows with you there are dozens that I could choose from, but if you don't mind, sir, because I've never asked you about it, would you mind if I asked you about the I'm flying scene from Titanic?
Flying!
Okay, so two things. One, it was completely spontaneous and a moment of capture of every element coming together. The sunset, that was all natural. There's no digital effects there, right? It just happened right in front of the lens. And it was a fragile moment. It only lasted for a few seconds. But the reason we got it was meticulous planning. We were in rehearsal. We had rehearsal all in advance. I had like a little mock-up of the bow. I had just like a piece of railing, and I worked with Kate and Leo. And I said, look, if we're going to do this at sunset, we're going to have seconds. So let's work this out. And we talked about how the kiss would work, how the choreography of the, she's flying and they wrap their fingers together, and then she kind of pulls him in to this embrace, and then she turns into the kiss, and they meet in the kiss in that kind of strange but really kind of romantic position. And I even drew with a Sharpie lips on my two hands, and I told them how I wanted them to like wait and hesitate and then smoosh and all that. It was meticulously planned like a space mission. And when we actually went to shoot it, we had, I want to say, like 2 minutes.
Oh.
We did 2 takes. Maybe we had 5 minutes. We had two. The lighting guys were running around. They were dropping filters in and turning.
We were just talking about sort of the CGI recreation. In some shots, they built just the bow, so whenever they're at the front doing that, in the huge wide shots, it would be obviously the CGI, but then there were massive chunks of the Titanic that was recreated for the purpose of them. They kind of filmed off the coast of Mexico, I believe, in the Pacific Ocean, and would just kind of set the ship into the water so that they would have the stunt people sliding down the deck. It was so there was to really kind of in a lot of cases, if James Cameron can do something what they call in camera, which is not in post-production with CGI, if he can actually do it in front of the camera, he does.
Mm-hmm. But he's not afraid to shy away from CGI.
Exactly right, which I was surprised to hear him tell me that if he were to make aliens today, he would make them using CGI, which I'm not sure I agree with, because I love Stan Winston's animatronics, but
the sunset in the background.
Sunset
so I guess
was
the
real.
bow
Yeah,
was
sunset.
Outside
Exactly
then?
right. Yeah.
And so
a lot
they
of
were outside and they ran up and did it, and then you said the water was.
The water was CGI. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
awesome.
One question for you about, okay, so this is, Titanic was a movie where they took an historical event
Yes.
and kind of made fiction
Exactly
within
right.
it.
There was no Jack and Rose.
Okay, exactly. In real life, there wasn't a Jack and Rose. For this Hiroshima project, do you expect him to take kind of a similar track? Because this book, you
Right.
said, is full of true stories, but it's still a novel.
Amazing true stories, and it's a collection of stories. So what he told me was the big difference between how he made Titanic and how he's going to make Ghost of Hiroshima is that he doesn't have to create a Jack and Rose. He doesn't have to. He said the stories that are in, and there are a lot of them, and so I'm sure he's going to pick some and not others. There is a story of a man who, after the bomb was dropped over Hiroshima, he went to look for his wife. And all he could find were her bones.
Oh,
and so
no.
he put her bones in a bowl and said, I'm going to take these bones to her parents, and they live in Nagasaki. And he got on a train and with her bones to go back to Nagasaki and was there for both bombings. And so basically what he told me was, I don't have to create a Jack and Rose. Like the stories, and that's just one of dozens of examples of that's sort of in this book. And basically he's saying all I have to do is kind of find those moments of humanity. And as he said in one of the chunks of the interview, I know how to do the CGI. The CGI is not the part I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is making sure that I tell those stories accurately.
Do we know if there's any big names that are going to be in it?
I think it's still so early in the process. And when we did that interview with James, he was in New Zealand. He's in New Zealand at what they call Weta, which is where they do all the special effects motion capture. So he's still finishing up Avatar 3. So I think he will probably want to get through all of that. And then he'll probably begin the process.
I'm fascinated by this one, Jay.
It's, you know what? I got to be honest. Really I know we haven't seen an Avatar. Avatar movies are great and they are technological marvels. But I think I'm ready to see what he could do with this.
You may not know the answer to this. I'm just so curious about the book itself.
Yeah.
These people who survived both incidents, both Nagasaki and Hiroshima, did they survive for long after?
There was one.
Or did the radiation?
It's a case-by-case thing. There, in some cases, yes, radiation very much affected them. But there was one survivor who I believe is the only recognized survivor of both bombings by the country of Japan. And it's kind of become a face for the impact of nuclear war on the world. And James Cameron, he passed away in, I want to say, 2008, 2009.
Wow, so he lived
for a very long time, into his 90s.
Wow.
James Cameron met him, was by his bedside basically a week before he passed. Wow. And James told him, back then, I'm going to tell this story on the big screen. Amazing. So for him, it's not just this book coming out and I want to adapt this book. This is a story he's been wanting to tell for a very long time.
And he's going to do a great job.
I think so.
I can't wait. Jake, fascinating
Thank
stuff.
you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you so much.
Thank you.
We are going to switch gears when we come back after this short break and talk about this Ozempic face. It's a new thing. We're going to be speaking with a local plastic surgeon, cosmetic surgeon, to talk about this unexpected side effect to taking Ozempic and Wegovy and how a lot of patients are addressing it. That is when we come back. Stay with us.
1026. So get this, GLP-1s or semaglutide drugs have changed the game when it comes to shedding pounds. But while Ozempic or Wegovy or any of the other brands may help users lose volume in their bodies, we're also seeing a loss of volume in the face. So this is called Ozempic face. And plastic surgeons are seeing an uptick in patients saying they feel like they look older now with less fat in their face. So we wanted to talk to an expert. We have Dr. Ben Coughlin from Chicago. He's based here in Chicago. He's a plastic surgeon to break down Ozempic face, what it means, and are you hearing this from your different patients that are coming in?
Very much so. Thanks for having me. I think it's something like 10% of Americans are taking this drug or some other form of this drug. So
No
yeah, I mean,
way.
it's an outstanding number. And, I don't know how to say it the best way, but, chubby people age really well. People that are a little heavy set, they get into their 40s, 50s, the contours of their face look good. They get this smoothness from the eyes to the cheek. And then if you lose that weight, particularly if you lose it a little bit later in your life, like in your 40s or 50s, the face starts to get this compartmentalization where you get separation of these superficial fat pads. You see the orbital rim a little more. The temple's kind of hollow. So I don't think it actually ages people more quickly, but it happens so rapidly that they just seem that they feel older.
If it didn't happen as rapidly, if the weight loss was more gradual, would Ozempic face even be a thing, or is it because of the speed at which this weight loss is happening?
It's hard to say. We saw similar, with the when the lap band surgeries were kind of popular back, 15 years ago. So there probably is some component to the rapid loss, the rapid volume loss that kind of makes the skin look a little looser. But I think it's more the shock for the patients, or they see somebody they haven't seen. People are losing 30% of their body weight in 6 months. So it's somebody they haven't seen, like, whoa, man, you look different, right off, like so quickly. So I think that's really the power to it.
So as a plastic surgeon, I know there's things like fillers that people get in their face to have the appearance of looking younger. Is that the solution when people come to you and they want more fat in their face? What are you doing? Sucking it from other places and sticking it there?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm pretty skinny, and they call me the fat guy because you can take fat from anywhere you don't want it and revolumize the face. Of course, fillers are an option, but fat can be kind of one of the most natural ways to do it because, as I said, people that are a little bit chubbier, the face looks really nice as you age because it just helps kind of smooth that compartmentalization. So taking a little fat from the love handles, the thighs, depends where somebody doesn't want it, and we just kind of refill the face, kind of touch things up. It's a relatively easy procedure. You're awake. I mean, it's kind of simple.
How prevalent is this right now? We actually all just heard this Ozempic face today before the segment, but it's the funny thing is we all kind of knew exactly what it meant.
Yeah, that's the thing. I joke around that I think Zoom was created by a plastic surgeon because now everybody's staring at their own camera all day looking at their face. Yeah. I think I would joke now that Ozempic or one of these meds was created by a plastic surgeon because people feel good now. They're a weight they want to be, but they just they don't like it. Their skin is loose or their face they don't like. So I think, I'm seeing 20 patients a week easy that are complaining about volume loss. As I said, 10% of Americans are taking this drug. I mean, that's a huge amount of number of people.
What do you say to people who are worried about this cycle, though? Like, let's say they're taking Wegovy now, they lose weight, they get fat injected into their face, but then they get off the drug, then they gain the weight, then what is their face going to look like? Yeah,
it's a very good point. We have to have that discussion. I normally tell them, where are you at in your weight loss journey? Are you trying to lose more? Have you been off the drug? Are you going to stay on it forever? I mean, all of these things come into play when you're talking about changing somebody's anatomy. So yeah, it's a good point because a lot of people, most people are on the drug for more than a year, but a large majority of people, once they get off it, they kind of rebound at least a little bit.
Sure. Okay, so what is the protocol when a patient comes to you to address this issue of what is being dubbed Ozempic face? Do you know where are the typical places on the face where you give them a little bit more help when it comes to volume?
Yeah, there's classic facial aging, as I said. So I don't think it's not making them so much worse. They're just seeing it happen so quickly. But the temples kind of, people get what's called a peanut head, where the upper head gets you get hollow in the temples, you get heavy down here. You see the orbital rim more. So sometimes putting a little fat here, you get separation of this malar bag, which is the fat here. So we're just kind of smoothing those compartmentalizations that people get in their face. The jowl comes a little bit. I mean, it's classic aging. It just happens to these people so quickly because they were used to a nice little plump face, which again can look nice as you're aging.
Do you almost feel like some people's build, they're not supposed to lose that much weight, and so that's why it looks a little bit, off to them? Maybe it's their body is not supposed to be losing the weight in those places, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much losing the weight. We're not supposed to be that big, typically. I mean, some people are really big, right? And our bodies aren't made to be that big. It's definitely losing so much weight so quickly is unnatural as well. So, we're probably going to learn so much more about this medication as things go on, right? As we learn, it's pretty new, relatively new for what we're dealing with. But there is a lot of people. It's probably the number one thing I'm seeing right now is some sort of facial fat, dystrophy that people are complaining about.
Interesting. Okay, I am also told there's a phenomenon known as Ozempic butt. Okay.
What?
One thing I am familiar is we want fat in certain places and we don't want it in others. We want volume in certain places on our body. We don't want it in others.
Okay. So
let me ask you this, Dr. Coughlin. Some patients of the semaglutide drugs have mentioned changes in the arms and the legs. With regard to the term Ozempic butt, are you seeing volume loss beyond the face in your practice that needs to be addressed that people are doing?
We are, of course. And the one thing that people are really seeing with this medication is there's a lot of muscle atrophy. So the buttocks it's a huge muscle, right? The gluteus maximus and minimus. So the muscle atrophy, people that are on these meds, they need to be on a really good high protein diet, at least, eating something, and then they need to be working out quite a bit. I think from the body perspective, from the arms, the legs, the butt, you can maintain a lot of it from from that protocol. Although yes, fat, it does look good in the butt to a certain level for most people is aesthetic. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a concern as well. Not only losing the weight fast, but losing muscle. Why do you think that is? Is it the drug itself, or is it people just don't have energy, so they're not working out like they were before?
Or they're not feeding, they're not nourishing their muscles.
Oh yeah, I mean, all you're doing with Ozempic is you're pretty much starving yourself. So that's just one place the body goes to get the energy. I mean, so you can be corrected for it. If you're eating the right diet, if you're high protein, if you're really hitting the gym, you can correct for it. But these are people who, if they just don't have an appetite anymore. So the muscle's one of the things the body starts to eat up. The fat is one, but the muscle, some people take it a little too far. They get a little too skinny even with these medications. So again, we're learning more about it every day, really.
Could you speak to the person who may want to avoid getting in that situation in the first place? If they're considering the medications, is there a way to kind of proactively preserve your facial stuff, or is that kind of just not part of it?
I would say, unfortunately for them, and fortunately for me, no, there's not a good way to focally preserve it. Again, the muscle tone, I think, is important. That's good. That's important overall, just for people to be healthy and stay strong. And as we age, muscle loss is a big factor. But you can't focally keep the fat anywhere on purpose. Going slow probably would be one key factor, I would say, and then getting somewhere and kind of maintaining that, whether you have to stay on the drug or you have to get into a new diet, a new exercise program. That's probably the number one thing, is to get there and just make yourself be happy and stay there, I think, instead of the yo-yoing, as you mentioned.
All right, Dr. Coughlin, that is fascinating
Ozempic
stuff.
butt and Ozempic
anything
face.
else before we let you go that you think would be useful for people who are either on the medication or considering going on the medication to know about aesthetics?
Aesthetics is hard to say. I think skincare is probably your number one thing you can do. If you can maintain good skin, that'll really help you. If the skin looks good and you have a little bit of this atrophy under there, we can work with it nicely. per the weight loss, you got to go into it eyes wide open, know what you're getting into, build a program, do it safely. There's a lot of clinics now that help people with it, from aesthetics, but also just making sure they're getting the weight loss done properly and maintaining it. Because I think the yo-yo effect, the losing, getting on it, getting off it, is probably a big part of the problem for people.
Indeed. All right, Ben Coughlin. Fascinating stuff. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Cheers to you. Yeah.
Who knew?
Busy man. 10%.
You're starving yourself, he said.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Your body's
Exactly.
just
Because
eating
my
itself.
understanding of those drugs is that they
Turn
kind of
off
suppress that hunger. Yeah.
the
They suppress that
synapses.
hunger thing, and so you can see how muscle atrophy or atrophy would be a byproduct of that if you're not nourishing after you do your workouts.
So
if
you've
you're
got
not
to do it
replenishing.
in a safe way.
Yeah. Which
I
is
wonder if you
probably
could
hard.
adjust. Yeah, I wonder if you could adjust how much you take, like your dosage,
Yeah.
maybe, like lower that, so maybe you're not losing so quick, or
Yeah.
you kind of have some sort of mind-stomach connection there.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Well, to his point, once you get to a place where you're comfortable and you like what you see in the mirror, coming up with a plan to maintain as opposed to staying on it indefinitely where...
Because you don't want to be taking drugs the rest of your life anyway, right? I mean,
wouldn't
not
think so.
ideally.
Yeah, not ideally.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, so this is a great show. We have so much variety on this show.
Right.
Coming up,
Yes.
you may have heard of a rare neurological condition. It's called synesthesia, and this causes your brain to translate sound into colors and shapes, like involuntarily.
Creative people there.
And it can fuel some big time creativity. So we're gonna meet a very, very talented individual, Sarah Craning, who lives with this condition, synesthesia, to tell us how it is manifesting in her artwork via music when we come back. So stick around.
Welcome back, it's 10:40. So imagine this, being able to see music, not just feel it. Our next guest does exactly that. This is Sarah Craning. She's a visual artist with a rare neurological condition called sound to color synesthesia, which causes her brain to translate sound into vibrant colors and shapes. Her paintings are stunning translations of the music she hears, and they've caught the attention of major artists, including Rufus Du Sol, and even Lollapalooza founder Perry Farrell. She's here to talk about our creative process, how there's 80 different kinds of this condition that you have, and then these beautiful paintings that we have behind us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. When you were a kid, when was the first time that you realized there's something that's different about my brain?
Yeah. So I was born with synesthesia, so I've experienced it my whole life. But pretty early on, around 8 years old, I could tell there was something different when I would describe the colors in like my favorite Disney song, and the people around me didn't seem to really know what I was talking about. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to that? Of what was the song and what colors were you seeing? Do you remember?
Oh, I have a memory of the Disney slogan, sort of at the opening of the films.
Right.
I remember telling my mom that the sound of that, the chimes looked like sparkles, and we had a little bit of a disagreement about whether or not that was true, and that was my first tip off that, oh, maybe there's something a little different.
So how did this progress as you got older, and when did you actually realize that this was a thing that other people had as well?
Yeah, so for the most part, I've kept it to myself my whole life because I just sensed something was a little different. But I was around 22, and I was actually in a psychology class, when I first heard the term synesthesia.
No way!
It was a long time.
You're like, oh,
yeah.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
I have that.
Yeah, it was such a relief. I was like, oh, yeah, this is a real thing. And then I was able to do some assessments and chat to other synesthetes, and yeah.
Synesthetes. So
Synesthetes.
you all are a community of sorts. So what are the other, out of curiosity, you said there's 80 kinds. I mentioned the example of certain, I had heard of children who associate different numbers with specific colors. So that would be what, numeric to color synesthesia?
Yeah.
There's 80 other kinds. What are some other examples?
Yeah, so I have a few. It's common to have a few types.
Oh, okay.
So I have a lot of sound-based ones. So I have auditory tactile synesthesia, which is sounds are textures for me. Sometimes I literally almost feel a sensation on the palm of my hand.
No way.
And there sound to movement synesthesia. There's something called ordinal linguistic personification, which is numbers and letters have distinct personalities that you associate every single time you see them. There's quite a few.
Do they know, have they done research about how this forms? Is it something that's passed down through your parents?
Yeah. For the most part, they believe it's genetic. So my father actually has synesthesia as well.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the primary way that it happens, is just through genetics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share an example if I asked you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
Baby
even
shark.
numbers,
No.
odd numbers. You mentioned this. Oh, okay. Maybe we could do a sound.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do you hear anything in the studio right now that you are associating with a texture or a sensation?
Yeah, so your voice actually, so it's all sounds for me. Your voice actually has a really nice, like deep, like plum purple undertone to it. Yeah.
Oh.
Pitches are different colors, so it's not just that color, but that one is happening a lot. And then the texture of your voice is like almost like a little bit like a rougher velvet.
Oh,
So
okay. All
I don't know if I want to know mine.
There's no such thing. There's not a bad version. So.
It just is,
Yeah,
right?
it just is.
Caitlin's voice bringing up any textures or colors for you?
It's squeaky and
No.
yellow.
There's a lot of peach tones in your voice.
Oh.
That's like the pitch that is kind of occurring the most often when you speak, and then kind of like a softer texture, like a silky texture.
Wait, I'll take
That's
that.
great.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's very
Yes.
sweet. Okay.
So these works that we're seeing behind you right now, signed by Rufus Tissot. The whole band performed on Saturday night. Now, these works right here, did you literally just transcribe what you heard? So there wasn't, in terms of creativity, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I worked so creatively hard. Was this an act of just translation, like
Flow
almost like
state.
copy and paste for you?
Yeah.
The difficult part for me is that every single second of a song looks different. So it's like moving colors and shapes for me. So I'm trying to capture like some of my
One
favorite
moment of it?
parts. Yeah, some of my favorite parts, some of like the repeating colors and shapes that I see. It is sort of just my mental picture being put on the canvas.
Do you close your eyes when you do these? You keep them open.
Yeah, but it's present for me if my eyes are open or closed.
No
So
way.
how did this collaboration with the band come about? Because you ended up backstage at Lala over the weekend.
Yeah, so I post on social media a fair bit, and I posted a painting of one of Rufus Tissot's songs called Edge of the Earth, and one of the band members slid into my DMs, James Hunt, and asked to purchase the piece. And yeah, from there we just had a nice connection. And yeah, I'm here at Lollapalooza doing work with a nonprofit. These paintings will be auctioned off to benefit wildlife.
What?
And so,
Cool.
yeah.
So you're speaking to my heart.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So is this going to be your future? Are you going to be an artist full time, do you think?
Yes, so I've been an artist full time for about 5 years.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in your mind it gets loud sometimes? Because I can imagine if there's you know, sounds coming in and then you're visually seeing colors,
Yeah.
that it's just constant.
Yeah, so synesthesia is a form of neurodivergence, like ADHD, it's a spectrum. So for me, I'm a little more involved on the spectrum, so I can get overstimulated pretty easily because, yeah, certain sounds are very intense. It's nonstop. You can't really turn off sound in the world.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes it's a lot.
Is there a way that you can turn down the volume ever if you're trying to get to sleep? If you're
No,
any way to do that?
I wish. My sleep setup is pretty dorky and embarrassing because I have earplugs and a white noise like headband on my head and white noise on either side of my bed. So there's just, I can't even hear a door open or close.
When you're watching like TV shows, you said like you can hear or you can see a color and a texture with our voice. How do you focus on what you're watching and like what they're saying versus like this whole other, you know, happening in your brain at the same time?
Yeah, I use subtitles a lot. That helps.
Okay.
Yeah. Just have something to root to what the people are saying. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so
Okay, that makes
fascinating.
sense.
Yeah.
Now, you said you've been working as an artist for the last 5 years. Is all your artwork basically just what we talked about, where you're basically transposing what you're hearing to the canvas?
Yeah. Most of my work is music primarily. Sometimes I'll paint voices or like audio recordings of a loved one for people, but yeah, it's all just a transcription.
When you talk to others who have this same, what is it called, synesthesia that you have, is there a connection there? Like if someone else who had it, this might sound like a silly question, and they were sitting right next to you and they listened to my voice, do you think that they would also see the peach color and that smooth surface? You think you do?
Well,
there's a connection.
There's a connection. Research has shown that there's some crossover with color. Sometimes there can be different experiences. It varies a bit, but yeah, with pitches and color specifically, there seems to be a lot of crossover for people. Yeah.
That is so
That is really
cool.
interesting. So there's something collective about this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like maybe we all have it, we just can't tap into it
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I kind of believe that.
You do?
Yeah. When people see my paintings, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't have this, but I really connect to this. Like this
Yeah.
makes sense to me for some
Yeah.
reason." And yeah, that to me is just really interesting.
For people that want to check out some of these, and we'll go into it at the end too. But where you said your Instagram? What is your Instagram if people want to follow along?
So it's just my name, Sarah Craning with a K.
Oh, we got it up there! Yay!
Oh yay, yeah.
Sarah.
Good
There
job,
it is.
production
Great.
team! Yay! Sarah, can you talk to us about your collab with the wildlife restoration organization,
Yeah.
Rewild? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Rewild is a global wildlife nonprofit. They protect and restore the wild all across the world. And I created a program that merges the sounds of music with the sounds of nature. When people want to, help protect the environment, sometimes there's a really sad association with that. Like, what can we do if animals are extinct? It's just kind of a sad concept. So pairing it with the beauty of music with how I visually see the sounds of nature, which is actually in these paintings. It's a way to sort of help people access the cause and learn more without such a heavy feeling.
Right.
Feeling inspired and uplifted rather than,
What do you think
heavy.
is the most beautiful thing that you've seen? Is it nature that gives you the most beautiful image in your mind?
Yeah, it's all beautiful in different ways. Music is my
Music
favorite
is
thing.
your favorite.
Yeah.
Is there a type or genre of music that gives you the best visuals? Rufus.
Electronic music
Electronic.
for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, super
Oh.
vibrant.
Okay, and then what if somebody wanted, you said you do voices. What if they have maybe a loved one who passed and they have a voicemail? Could they reach out to you, give you like a recording, and you could make them a piece of art with it?
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Wow.
Really? That would be a beautiful
Caitlin,
gift.
have you ever been to an event where there's a live auction, there's an auction and someone's doing like a live splatter painting like in real time?
No.
You haven't? I've seen this at a couple of different like charity events where you don't even know what they're doing, but all of a sudden it's like the Blackhawks logo and they're, you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
You do a similar thing live with live musicians and you are in real time creating a visual piece of artwork, correct?
Yeah.
Talk about the atmosphere when that happens and what kinds of reactions you get and what the experience is like for you, because you're basically like opening up your psyche to like a live audience.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do. All of my work is sort of like a love letter to music. Music is my favorite thing. So working live on stage with musicians and performing, I get to be really active and really energized. I'm quite an active painter, so I'm throwing paint around quite a lot, and the audience response is usually great as well. So yeah, it's my favorite thing to do.
You are incredible, my friend.
I have one more question for her before we wrap,
Yeah.
because I'm fascinated by this. Okay, so you kind of zeroed in on this when you were 8. You found out about the title of it when you were in 22, you said? Oh, Cynthia, I've got that.
Yeah.
Between college and when you just started to do this full time, like what were you doing, and then what led you to be like, hey, wait, this is my gift, I'm going to share it? Like, what was that trajectory?
Yeah, so I was home a lot during 2020, working from home, and just had a lot of time to myself. And so really I just started sharing my paintings for myself on social media. I didn't think anybody would see them. I've been making art of music since I was a little kid, but it took off and people were interested in it, and it got a few million views right away.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, suddenly this
Amazing.
really private thing was just out there, and I feel lucky to
Well,
do it.
maybe you're speaking to someone who has a kid or a young person who might have this too, and opening the eyes to this.
Well, it's always amazing to meet someone who's like doing what they should be
literally
doing.
what you should be doing. What a great feeling.
Yeah,
That's
I'm really
awesome.
All right, let's get
Sarah
her Instagram handle up there one more time, so that folks can follow along.
There she
I
is.
certainly will be following. It's Sarah Craning on Instagram. Thank you so much for sharing your story
It's
and
really
sharing your
beautiful.
wonderful work. I definitely can see the songs. I mean, I've seen Rufus
Oh, yeah?
live a couple times myself, and I connect with that. There's Venn diagram overlap. You know,
Yeah,
that's
it's tickling
right in
something
there.
back there.
Yes, there's something back there. All right, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much
coming
for
in.
coming in.
Yeah.
We are going to switch gears when we come back after this short break, because there's been an unfortunate Legionnaire's disease outbreak, not here in Chicago, fortunately, although we have had it in Illinois at some of the retirement homes. This is in New York City, and it is a major situation, so we're going to be speaking with a doctor about that when we come back. Stay with us. Okay, this is one of the big health stories of the week. New York City is dealing right now with an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease. This is unfolding in central Harlem. And right now, the latest is that we are in the neighborhood of 60 confirmed cases. So this morning, we are checking in with a doctor to learn a little bit more about exactly what Legionnaire's disease is and why this outbreak is spreading so quickly, and also who is most at risk. So let's welcome into the conversation Dr. Nandita Nadig. Dr. Nadig, thank you so much for being with us. Where are you joining us from this morning so we have it?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm in Chicago, actually, at the Northwestern Memorial Hospital.
Okay, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy morning for us. So can you run us through kind of the cliff notes of what exactly Legionnaire's disease is and why it is spreading so quickly?
Yeah. So Legionnaire's disease is essentially a severe form of pneumonia caused by a bacteria called Legionella. And unlike, other cases of pneumonia that are spread by person-to-person contact, this is because of inhalation of water vapor. And in this particular case in New York City, it seems like it is due to a water system that's affected a number of people at this point in time.
The water system. So people are getting this just from the water at their homes?
So it could be water at their homes, or it could be large buildings. So water tanks, swimming pools, anywhere you have warm and stagnant water that's not disinfected properly is a harbinger of this bacteria.
I remember covering a local outbreak of Legionnaire's, I believe at a downstate, state-run retirement health facility of some kind. So what can folks do to protect themselves?
I think, what folks can do in particular, if they've had exposure already, right? Let's say you've been in a swimming pool, or if you've, been in a hot tub, or if you've had exposure to stagnant and contaminated water, then be on the lookout for flu-like symptoms. Be on the lookout for fever, chills, muscle aches, headaches. And if they're not getting better in about 48 hours or so, then getting in touch with your primary care physician and telling them about your exposure is probably what people can do once they've had the exposure. Right? Prior to exposure, right, people can be mindful about the water systems, and I think advocating for this being cleaned appropriately and having proper measures in place to ensure that these systems are appropriately cleaned and maintained.
So you mentioned how you can catch it from stagnant water. Is it once you have it, you can pass it person to person through droplets in the air or contact with something, or is it you can only contract it from the water yourself?
That's right. So typically, it's not from person to person contact.
Oh.
It is from inhaling water vapor that has this Legionella bacteria.
There is an indication that this particular outbreak in central Harlem came from some kind of water cooling system of some kind. Is there anything that building owners should be doing to protect their tenants, whether it's an office building or a residential building, from these kinds of risks?
Yeah, so thankfully, this bacteria can be easily eliminated by regular disinfectant fluids. So regular maintenance is all that's required to ensure that the water is safe. Nothing in particular that has to be done for this bacteria.
So you mentioned about how if you are in water that may have been contaminated, you have flu-like symptoms that don't go away, then you should go to the doctor. What is that time period? Because I have to say, my daughter got really ill a couple weeks back, and I was wondering if it was from the pool that we were in, because I didn't know if it was a stomach bug or something. She had a minor fever, but it did eventually go away. But when do you go to the doctor, and when should you wait?
So the incubation period of this particular bacteria is about 10 to 14 days. So you could, develop symptoms, 10 days or 14 days after the initial episode or insult. But I'd say, once you have symptoms, about 48 hours, and if things aren't getting better, that's when I would go to the primary care physician.
And typically, run us through what a typical treatment might look like. You mentioned it resembles pneumonia.
Right. Yes. So we call this an atypical pneumonia because a lot of patients can have symptoms that are somewhat like you said, lingering on and eventually gets worse. Unlike sort of pneumonia where it's full on at right from the start. And so that's why we call it atypical pneumonia. And thankfully there is a very effective treatment if caught early, and it's an antibiotic for about 5 to 7 days or so. So there's a very effective treatment if it's caught early and treated appropriately. And if you were to go to your physician with these symptoms, you might have a physician do a chest X-ray. They might do some urinary testing, they might do some sputum testing to confirm the diagnosis. But typically it's a clinical diagnosis, sort of in the clinical setting. If you have symptoms and if you have had exposure and if the risk is high enough, then you treat and then you wait for testing.
How scary is Legionnaires? If someone that contracts it or someone in your family, does it affect everyone equally, or are there more sensitive groups?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most healthy adults, right, recover fine without treatment. It's folks that are elderly, right, ages over 50 to 60, folks that have a smoking history or current smokers, folks that have chronic lung diseases, be it COPD or other fibrotic lung diseases, patients or folks that have immune system issues or on medications that can lower their immunity. Those are all people that have a higher risk of having complications from this disease.
Okay, Dr. Nandita Nadig, thank you so much for your time this morning. Hopefully things get contained in New York City, but when I hear that incubation period, 10 to 14 days, you just hope they get it under control. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. It is 11:03. Yeah, it's scary stuff. Yeah, look out for those symptoms. That's probably all you can do,
From
right?
water or water droplets that have it in there.
It's always something.
It's so and
Always
you can't
something
see it
every week, right?
Jeez.
All right. Caitlin and I are going to sign off here and hand it over to our 11 a.m. team. We've gone over, Caitlin. We just couldn't get enough. We had a jam-packed show.
Jam-packed
show.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I really liked Sarah.
Fascinating.
With the synesthesia.
I feel like she's tapping into, like I said, a part of her brain that not all of us are able to do.
Absolutely.
A lot of it there.
Yeah. Can't wait to follow her on Instagram. All right, it is 11:03. We're going to take a short break before we hand the baton off. So stick with us here on Chicago Now. Hope you're having a great Tuesday morning.
See you tomorrow.
Welcome back to the 11 o'clock hour of Chicago Now. I'm Gabriella Freemus.
And I'm Tia Ewing. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day outside. I spent the morning along the Kennedy talking about a new construction issue that they're having starting today for 2 weeks. So I was outside quite a bit.
Yeah, was it hot? How did it feel?
It was hot. It was hot. You could see some of the air pollution that was like still covering the city.
It is.
It's crazy out there. Okay, we have a jam-packed show today. We have a couple of guests, but some of them are to do with NFTs, Bitcoin, crypto, which is big buzzwords right now going on. So we're going to have someone with OpenSea, the largest marketplace for buying and selling digital collectibles, on later on. And then also in the show, we're going to have someone who is talking about kind of a tough conversation, right? How to deal with a loss in your family and explaining it to children, the little ones. So that should be an interesting topic as well.
It is, yeah. But let's start out first with Karen Conti, attorney. Karen, I know we were here last time talking about Bryan Kohberger's case. We're back again talking about the case. It was 13 days ago that they released these documents, started to release them. Have we learned anything new as a result of those documents being released?
Well, the first thing to say about this, Tia, is that we don't have all of them yet. The judge is still vetting them. This judge is still going over them and taking out personal information. Then there's also some issues about a possibility of an appeal in the next 30 days, and the judge has to be cognizant of that. So I think we have some now, but we don't have all. I will tell you that the crime scene was gruesome. What we know now is that one of the women was stabbed 20 times. Another woman was stabbed 50 times. And one of them had asphyxiation. So not only was there a violent stabbing going on, there probably was some choking, which again is a very personal crime, shows a lot of anger, and shows a real driven murderer.
You know, talking about that part and the violence, I think we kind of knew it was violent, kind of being the people that were watching this case play out. But some of those details we didn't know. Was there a reason for that? Did that play out in the courtroom and maybe we just weren't privy to those details being released widely to the public?
Well, there was a gag order by the judge, and the police and the prosecutors and the defense lawyers were all bound by that. So it's not surprising that we didn't get all of that evidence. And certainly there has to be some sensitivity to the victims' families here. I mean, there is a freedom of information, requirement that these things do get published at some point, but there are limitations on what the public should know. But yeah, this was a very, very personal crime. This was an angry crime, and this person who did it is a very, very dangerous human being.
The people who have been following this case since 2022, as many of us have, but really closely, do you think they're surprised by some of these really gruesome details?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we just didn't know it. I mean, we can picture what happens, but when you hear about the face of one woman being completely unrecognizable, her entire facial structure was destroyed. So these are really gruesome details.
Karen, for a while there, I think the public at large, including myself, Gabriella, not sure if you felt this way too. I thought that, he stalked this home. There was evidence of that, and that was it. What other evidence has kind of shown that Bryan Kohberger definitely committed this crime that has come out since the case?
Yeah, there's some little pieces that all together make it to me that this was a conviction waiting to happen. There was evidence that he was stalking the girls. There was one instance where the dog was being walked. The girl went out in the middle of the night and saw somebody. The door was open one time. They called the authorities on one occasion. There was also evidence that Kohberger went into a Walmart asking for some sort of black protective covering, and obviously to wear during this crime. There's also evidence about the purchase of the knife, and of course there was the DNA, the touch DNA on the sheath that was left at the hearing, at the scene of the crime. So you have all of these things together that if the DNA were not found, he may have gotten away with it. But once we knew and focused on him, now we see that he was surveilling the property. He was driving past the house. He, was doing all these things. So yeah, there's extra details here that we now know.
We know that the family, they've expressed their disappointment over not understanding the killer's motive. So knowing what you know about this type of crime and also about Kohberger now, any educated guesses on his motive?
Well, if you look back in his history, and when you are a profiler, which I am not, you have to look at someone's history and what drives them. So he is on the spectrum. So he had posted when he was in high school that he was being bullied. He was 100 pounds heavier in high school, and apparently the kids were relentless with him. So he said in postings that he didn't have any real emotions and he couldn't feel anything. So you have somebody here who maybe is on the spectrum. He doesn't understand emotions. He's seeing people that are full of life, like these four beautiful young people, and he wanted to take that away from them. He wanted to feel something. He thought maybe if he did this, he would feel some emotion that other people are feeling. As ridiculous as that motive sounds, that sometimes is just, what really happened in this case. So I don't know that we're ever going to hear from him and really understand it. But, when you have a disordered person like this, nothing really makes sense. You can say those words, but it still doesn't make sense to us.
Karen, there was a point in the courtroom that I will never forget where the family was speaking directly to Bryan Kohberger and saying, what they hope happens to him while he's behind bars. In this case, we do know he's going to a maximum sentence, a maximum security prison, which he's already been transferred to. What are those conditions typically like?
Well, in this prison, it was ranked one of the top 15 of the worst prisons in the nation. So if anybody thinks he's getting a cushy place, it's not that. He's going to be in a cell for probably 23 hours a day, if not 24 hours a day. He rarely is going to get out into the yard, and if he is, it's probably an encaged yard where he is by himself. He's going to be in solitary confinement. He's going to be protected because he is a target and going to be a target given the crime and given his youth. The food is horrible there. There are maggots in the food. The air conditioning and the heating are substandard. It's really a horrible place, and it's a very dangerous place because all of the criminals in Idaho are there, and the worst ones are there, including the people on death row.
Wow. Karen, I don't know if you're going to know kind of the answer or be able to talk on this, but I remember seeing a video recently talking about an interview that was done with a neighboring cellmate kind of at the initial spot in Moscow, that him saying that Kohberger, he was odd, he would do annoying things in the cell next to him. Have you heard anything about that, and does that surprise you?
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, apparently he was washing his hands constantly, and he was taking really, really long showers and frequent showers. So, that sounds a little OCD to me. And when, the fact that he's on the spectrum, sometimes people on the spectrum will exhibit that kind of compulsivity. So no, that doesn't surprise me at all.
What do you think about the fact that all of these documents will eventually, most of them, it sounds like, will be released? What do you think that does by releasing those to the public?
Well, I think it puts to bed the conspiracy theorists who think maybe somebody else did it, or, he had an accomplice. I think it's important for people to know what the evidence was that put someone in jail forever. I think it's good to know, to see that there was stalking going on beforehand. I mean, I think anybody with children should look at this and say, hey, if someone is being stalked, if your door is open and broken, you need to do something about it, because you just would really want to use your knowledge of what happened here to prevent it from happening again.
Do you think Kohberger will ever open up again? I know the last time at least, people are saying the last time he spoke was when he was arrested. Do you think he will ever open up and talk or say anything? Because to this point, nothing.
Yeah. Well, criminals don't usually talk because they have appeals or they have the death penalty. And when that is on the table, they don't want to say anything because that could impact their ability to, be exonerated, let's say. He cut a deal that says that he will not have any appeals, even though he's still free to file them. But I think that, doesn't have any reason not to say anything. I think what's going to happen is that I think years are going to go by. He's going to get bored. There's going to be someone who connects with him in prison, which happens all the time through pen pal, letter writing, and some podcaster is going to come to the prison and interview him, and he's finally going to talk. But my guess is whatever he's going to say is probably not going to be the truth. It's probably going to be manipulative and all aligned to make him look smart and to look like somebody who he's not.
It appears that, up until this point, at least everything that was put out to the public, it made him seem like he was a decent person overall. He was in college when this happened. What do you make of that? I mean, I haven't really heard anybody come out and say, he was this horrible person until we heard about this crime. Is there anything that you've seen that showed prior to this that he had some issues?
Yeah, nothing really significant. I mean, people around him said he was selfish. People around him said that he would sometimes manipulate to get out of certain work. We know he was very interested in the criminal justice system. We know he applied for jobs, in the police realm. We also heard that he was he told some people that he really wanted a girlfriend, and that he was inappropriate with women sometimes, not hugely inappropriate, but just saying awkward things. And so again, that kind of goes to the idea that he just didn't really know how to navigate socially, and that could have made him very, very angry. But he sounds like you're right. He kept it inside, and nobody saw the evil that was lurking.
Karen, even though that these details are really gruesome, do you feel like it offers the family, friends, some type of closure to know exactly what happened?
I do. Some victims' families want to know everything. They want to know what the last minutes were like. They want to know what happened and when. Some victims' families don't want to remember their loved one, their last minutes in that sort of terror and pain. So I think it depends on the victims' families. I think there are some who are going to be eating up all of these documents, and some who are going to try to move on with their lives and remember their beautiful child or loved one as a perfect person with a future ahead of her.
Yeah, I tried to get through a decent amount of them, and I will be honest, it was hard. Mm-hmm. It was very difficult given the nature of what was, detailed inside. Like you said about the stabbing, that was something that I didn't know. So I walk into it reading, and I'm like, oh my goodness. It was shocking to the system.
Well, it is. And, you can glean a lot from the amount of anger that was exhibited here, right? This guy came in, he really planned this crime. He staked out the house. He was obviously looking at these women. Maybe the young man got in the way. But he had a lot of anger in him, and one of the girls apparently fought back very strenuously, which is really particularly sad. But yeah, he almost got away with the crime here, in my view. And now that we see the evidence, it all ties back to the DNA, and it all ties back to identifying him first, and then working backwards to see how he was related to the crime.
Well, I'm very happy he didn't get away, and you're right, he did, because I'm sure you saw the video of the traffic stop where everything looked normal. He talked to the police like it was normal, and I mean, you would have never thought that was a person that had killed this many people.
Well, and when you have lack of affect, which he definitely has, that blank look, I mean, you can get away with so many things, right? I mean, you and I, if we did something like that, we'd be a basket case. But he was calm, cool, and collected. And my guess is that if he were not apprehended, he would have done this again.
Wow, that's really scary to even think about. Karen Conti, attorney with Conti and Dolan Law, we always appreciate you being with us and breaking it all down. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, ladies.
You too.
Thank you, Karen.
Such a crazy story all the way around.
I'm just trying to think back, 3 years ago, 2022, about the time when this happened. And there's so much speculation, there were so many unanswered questions, and now we have some answers. And unfortunately, they're really gruesome.
Yeah, I think we have the answers, but for this family, those answers, I know they're probably going to look, some, like Karen said, will look over the documents, but I still don't think they will ever come to terms with understanding and grasping how someone could be so evil with people that they really didn't even know, and to kill them in this way. I mean, it's just, when you look at those documents, it's just absolutely sickening. I don't think we'll ever understand.
It's a lot, yeah. But I'm glad we have someone like Karen and her team who's able to break it down for us and
Absolutely.
give us just enough details. All right, we're going to switch it up a little bit here. After the break, we're going to talk about Crypto 101 because that's a big topic of conversation. So we will be right back after this break.
Money, 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 money. Yeah, I always like talking about money. Okay, so we have Adam Hollander, Chief Marketing Officer of OpenSea, who is with us right now. This is the industry's leading NFT marketplace. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this. I hear a lot of talk still right now about Bitcoin because we've seen it reach, I think, one of its highest peaks yet. Haven't heard a lot of buzz about NFTs as of recently. Break down for our audience, though, that may have no idea what an NFT is, what it's all about.
Sure, happy to. So NFTs represent infallible digital ownership. And so let me give you an example. You walk into a museum, you see a beautiful painting up on the wall, and you're told that it's worth millions. You could take a photograph of it, but it wouldn't be worth very much. You could go to the gift shop, buy a print, but again, same thing. So why is the one up on the wall so valuable? And the reason is because it's the original and you can prove that it's the original. But up until recently, it was very difficult with digital assets. Let's say a digital photograph or a video or a music file or a piece of art. And the reason is because you can copy a digital file. If it's posted online or you right-click, copy, paste, you end up with essentially an identical version that's indiscernible from the original. And that makes it very hard to value digital assets or digital art. But all of that changes with NFTs because using the blockchain, you can infallibly prove who is the owner of a particular asset. And that means that an artist, for example, can create and sell an original piece, and the buyer will always be able to prove that it is, in fact, the original. And this as a concept really does have profound impact on dozens of industries, art and collectibles just being one example, especially as we as a society are spending more and more of our time digitally and online.
So give us an example of an NFT that has had value and really how that value is determined.
So a variety of NFTs are valued based on speculation and based on supply and demand mechanics. But we are starting to see now, for example, a lot of real world assets be tokenized on the blockchain. And so, for example, there are companies like Courtyard and Beezy that are putting collectibles like graded Pokemon cards on chain. And so you can buy and sell the NFTs, and at any time you can exchange them for the real world items. This lets people trade the collectibles back and forth hundreds of times without the need to consistently transfer the physical item. You can now buy event and concert tickets digitally on-chain as NFTs. And it means that if you want to sell your ticket, you can to anybody without the need for an intermediary. It's not actually hard to imagine eventually this is going to affect markets like real estate, where maybe one day you're purchasing the deed to your house on chain, or maybe you graduate college and you receive your degree and credentials on chain, and it becomes a provable source for social reputation and digital identity. And so, OpenSea as an NFT marketplace plays a major role here, but it's not just a marketplace for art and collectibles and speculation. It really is a gateway for the next generation of digital asset ownership.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. How do you see this, move into the future? Because right now I feel like, yes, there are more people who know about NFTs or crypto in general, but years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, no one really did. So how has it changed in the last, 5 to 10 years, Adam? Has it moved quickly? Are you guys happy with the progress? People knowing about it more, or would you like to see more folks be talking about it and using crypto?
Well, of course, we would always love to see more folks talking about it. But, if you rewind all the way really back to the beginning with Bitcoin as the very first cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is unique in that it has a scarce capped supply. It's not controlled by any government or company or person. And it really was created with a very basic idea that anyone should be able to store and transfer value, regardless of where they're located or their race, their background, their creditworthiness. As long as you have access to the internet, then you have the ability to do this. And the world really does seem to be waking up to the idea that it makes a lot more sense to store value digitally than in physical items like gold. And the world seems to really be on the precipice of a consensus that one of the best ways to store value digitally is with Bitcoin. Now, recently, we've seen a huge step forward when it comes to crypto regulation. And so for years, there were no clear rules and only very limited guidance from the US government, which made it extremely hard for companies to innovate or to drive any type of mass adoption like you talked about. And so recently we've had, the Genius Act that was put into place related to stable coins and really making sure that anyone around the world can functionally store and send dollars over the internet without the need for a bank as an intermediary. We've got the Clarity Act, we've got Project Crypto. And so it's really wonderful to see that we're starting to get much better guidance and clarity around how crypto and NFTs and other assets on the blockchain are going to be regulated, which I think is going to be a major driver for innovation.
So I will admit, Adam, that I've dabbled in Bitcoin and other crypto, and it's been very fun, very lucrative. I think we all can agree to that, depending on when you got in. But when it comes to NFTs, that's where I'm a little cloudy. So I want to see. I feel like a lot of people may be. So I want to ask you this question. So say I capture a one-of-a-kind photo. No other photo in the world is like this one photo that I have. I want to make it where it's an NFT. What's the process? What do I do?
So it's extremely straightforward to do that. In fact, you can do it right on OpenSea using our studio in a matter of minutes. And so if you have a digital asset, and that could be, a video, it could be an image, it could be a photograph, it could be a place, for your digital art, you can then mint those as NFTs, as unique tokens on the blockchain. And then at that point, from that moment forward, anyone that owns that NFT knows that they have the original asset that was created by you, the photographer or the artist. And so unlike a digital asset where you would just take that image and say, throw it up onto social media or email it to someone or put it on a website and then you could right click, copy, paste, or anybody can make a copy of it, the NFT represents the actual original that came from you as the photographer or the artist.
Perfect.
Adam, one that I'm hearing a lot right now, Pudgy Penguin. I think that one's really popular.
Of course.
Tell the audience, Pudgy Penguin. They think I'm crazy probably, but it's real and a lot of people are investing in it.
So Pudgy Penguins is a really very OG NFT project, very well known. It's run by a great guy named Luca. But the thing about Pudgy Penguins, and this is actually a great example to talk about the power of NFTs, is what Pudgy Penguins is actually doing outside of the NFT itself. And so they launched a cryptocurrency called Pengu that now can be used in a wide variety of ways. They've launched their own blockchain called Abstract, where you can do a variety of things from digital gaming to consumer-focused applications of crypto. Pudgy Penguins is doing a lot in terms of creating their own gaming, in terms of creating their own infrastructure. And if you own one of these NFTs, you unlock a lot of membership and benefits for all of these other aspects of what's happening with the underlying company. And this is really the power of being able to truly show what it means to own something digitally and be able to prove that you are, in fact, one of the owners of a very limited set of supply of NFTs.
What do you say, Adam, to someone that may be watching right now? They may kind of be a little foggy on everything that we're talking about, but maybe they want to get in on the action and they don't quite know where to start. What would you tell them? Because I think for Bitcoin, for some people, that may be a ship that's already sailed. Yeah. But what about some of the others?
Well, I'd make the strong argument the ship definitely hasn't sailed. We've got a long way to go with Bitcoin and everything else. But regardless, OpenSea is a wonderful place for anyone to get started with their crypto journey. We've evolved well beyond an NFT marketplace. And so you can come to OpenSea, you can create a wallet in minutes, you can purchase crypto across 20 chains seamlessly, and then you can get started, whether that be with art or collectibles or meme coins or really just anything. We just acquired a mobile trading company called Rally, which has really supercharged our development around a new mobile experience that you'll see from us later this year. And OpenSea has a wonderful Learn Center where you can go and learn all about all of these different topics, ranging from, underlying coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, to meme coins, art, collectibles, how to mint NFTs, and the like.
The only reason I said that about Bitcoin is because of the cost. I mean, to actually have a coin, the average person, it's really expensive.
It's a really interesting misconception, actually, because you don't need to own one Bitcoin in order to own Bitcoin. And so you can own a tenth of a Bitcoin or a hundredth of a Bitcoin, and you can still participate and hold that asset as a store of value. And so I think it's actually a really interesting comment, because a lot of people believe that, okay, well, this is $115,000. I couldn't possibly own one coin, so I might as well move on to something else. But the reality is that you don't need to own an entire coin to participate.
Okay. What are some other maybe, I guess we can't give away all your trading secrets or anything like that, but what are some other, things, whether it be crypto, NFTs, that people should be looking out for?
Well, like I talked about, I think that we're starting to see a real trend in NFTs representing tokenized forms of real world assets. And so, I mentioned a few examples like Pokemon cards, and even some, out there examples like, purchasing real estate. I think there's a world as we move forward where it's going to make a lot of sense for a lot of types of data and information and ownership to take place on chain. And so, I mentioned, for example, digital identity and credentials from college. You might eventually start seeing things like medical records that are on chain, where you can truly take ownership over those assets and then transfer them in whatever way that you see fit without the need for a specific intermediary.
All right, Adam Hollander, thank you so much for being with us.
Really appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you too, giving us some advice there.
Always an interesting conversation. Still don't completely understand it, but I feel like here very soon,
I get it.
I will get more of a grasp. But I have played around too a little bit.
Yeah, I have too. I get it, but I don't agree with the Bitcoin thing, because
it's a big number.
I mean, you only own
over
how much? A penny?
Yeah,
I don't know. He would have to break that down for me offline a little better for me to get it, because I didn't get that. But other than that, I love the conversation. Yeah, thinking towards the future.
We're having a few good conversations
today.
We are going to switch gears a little bit again. We're going to talk about an author of a new book. It's helping families navigate grief with little ones. So we'll talk to that author as soon as we come back.
Welcome back. As you know, grief is really a tough topic to dissect, especially when you're talking about talking through it with children. And to talk to us about it is Chantal Rochelle. She's a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, Webby Award winner, and really a creative force behind content for BuzzFeed, Warner Brothers, and so much more. First of all, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
Let's talk about this. So you decided to go into the space of writing a book, and really this is for children. It is called Where Did Grandma Go? Explain why you wanted to delve into this topic of grief.
Well, the inspiration came from personal loss. I lost someone very close to me that was very near and dear to me, my beautiful mother, Millicent. And I remember struggling to explain that kind of grief to the younger people in my life. For example, my young niece, Monet. And I just wanted to create something that offered comfort, connection, and a spiritual sense of peace, because she would literally ask the question, where did grandma go? And I didn't want it to just be for kids, but for anyone navigating that kind of loss and that sense of heartbreak. This book is really my love letter to the idea that even though someone is gone physically, their presence, their energy, and their love, it truly never goes away.
Do you feel like this is a topic that maybe, isn't really talked about much? I haven't seen many books that really talk about explaining it to children in a fun, creative way that's easy to understand. Have you gotten some good feedback saying like, hey, we really needed this?
I've got a lot of great feedback like that. And it's so funny you mention that, because that's what really sparked my interest in writing this book. And when I went to go find tools and things to help my niece explain it in a way that wasn't just like, oh, the finality of it, because I focused on the wonder rather than the finality. Children are naturally curious and incredibly intuitive. They can, sense a lot of things. So I use gentle language and imagery that opens up the possibility of connection rather than closing a door. And so I've had people share with me that they lost their grandfather, or they lost their father or their mother, or they didn't know how to explain it to their children. So they bought the book and they had this kind of cross-generational moment where, the story is less about what's lost and more about what still remains, that memory, that love, and signs that remind us that they're still with us in some way.
Let me ask you this. We don't want to give everything away in the pages of the book, but anyone that's watching right now, what can they expect if they buy this book? What's kind of like the walk through the journey?
To me, it's the question we all ask, whether we're 50 or 5 or 100. I want you to take away that whatever loss looks like to you, it could hold that ache of absence, but I also want you to have the possibility of belief that maybe, just maybe, they've gone somewhere beautiful, and maybe they're still loving us from here. That love maintains, it should sustain us. It's a question that lives in our hearts, not just the head, it's the knowing. I know my mother is still with me. I know that my mom still mothers me. My mom will come out in my laugh when I'm laughing. I'm like, whoa, my mother just jumped out. Or when I look at myself in the mirror, I'll see her. It's like she's staring back at me. Her words will pop in. I'm going to tell myself. The other day I went to get a sweet treat. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I heard my mother loud as day saying, do we need to eat that right now? Do we need that? She's still here, right? And so I think that those are the beautiful moments that I still treasure, and I still have that love maintains.
That gives you the chills, yeah, because those people are still definitely with you. Do you have the book with you by any chance? And can you show us the cover of it?
I don't have it on me. I'm so sorry. I'm traveling right now. I want to really encourage you all to go to atascabooks.com. It is a beautiful, beautiful book that I'm so proud of. And while I don't have it on me, my mistake, it is available for purchase right now on atascabooks.com. And I'm so honored to have collaborated with Haley Cleary on it. She was an amazing illustrator, and I'm just so happy I got to chat with her.
Well, that's a great tease then, if you don't have it with you now. People will look it up.
Yeah, they will. Let me ask you this. A lot of people, they go through this experience of loss, of grief, and they kind of stay there for a while. How did you find yourself enough courage to really get out of that place to then be inspired to write a book?
I think one of the beautiful things about my relationship with spirituality is I believe it's rooted in love. I believe that I need to have the human experience and go through all of my grief, and I still grieve. Grief is forever. As long as I have life in my, my body and, the ability to live this day to day, I will forever grieve my mother. And so with what I have now is the belief that love is eternal, that it transcends time and space, and that she's always with me. And so I want to really just get that message across for anyone who's struggling, that joy and grief can coexist. They can both live together. And so that's a really huge message I want to leave you with.
Yeah, we were just looking at the cover. You're absolutely right. It is beautiful. And obviously people need to go get it because it is a really tough topic to talk about with children and really anybody. I think all people handle grief. We always say that different people handle grief differently. And I know, like for me, it's very difficult for me to handle grief, funerals, any of that. I do not handle that well. So I know I'm not the person to try to explain it to a child, because if I'm not handling it well, how do you deliver that message to a child?
You know, what was your niece's reaction to reading it for the first time? Do you feel like it really helped her through?
That,
Sorry, you froze there for a little bit.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. You're back and rocking.
Yes.
I'm gonna let you finish.
The joy of internet. Yes, her reaction, she was very collaborative. She wanted to give feedback on the entire book, her hair, how she looked, how her skirt, her room. She was very, very hands-on in the process.
And let me ask you this, how did that book help you handle your own grief?
Oh, I remember telling my mom that I wanted to write a book, and she always encouraged me to write. She told me to write. She always told me to write. And while I didn't imagine that it would be in this capacity, my mom was my co-writer every step of the way. And I think that for me, being able to still feel her, to sense her. I remember one day I was having a heavy grief moment, and I was crying, and this is going to give you chills. I was crying, and I see my sister's name pop up on my phone, and it was my niece on the other end. She goes, "Why are you crying? It's gonna be okay." Chills. The knowing that my mother continues to mother me, she continues to protect me, and that I will be okay. Grief and joy can truly coexist.
Yeah, and I'm sure your mother would be very proud of you. She did a great job in raising you, so I know she would be very proud. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope everyone watching out there goes and get your book.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tough topic of conversation, but it sounds
necessary.
like it's necessary. You know, we always say that kids are resilient, but they still need help. You know, no matter how old they are, if they're really young or if they are getting a little bit older.
Yeah, very true. All right, we're gonna definitely bring you more topics tomorrow. That was a tough one.
It was
to end on, because grief, I think, is really a tough topic for a lot of people to navigate. But as always, we appreciate you joining us on Chicago Now, and we'll see you at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.
Like that, the recommendation is that they can run more efficient and save taxpayer dollar at the same time. Any other questions?
When the audits come out, will they be public?
Yes, there will be public. Yep.
And how long did you say it'll take for that?
Roughly about 60 days. Yep. Now, don't hold me. That's the goal, right? Things happen in government and may not come out, but we want to be as open and transparent about this process as possible.
Do you have a specific threshold or goal that you're trying to reach for county, and they'll get here want to reduce by a certain percentage?
No, because each county is going to be different, right? The more fiscally conservative counties that are being good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, there's probably going to be less that they have to do. Some of the ones that have much more egregious spending, where their budgets have gone up by hundreds of millions of dollars and almost 100%, they're probably going to have to do more introspection and more looking at what they're going to have to cut. Is that it, guys? All right, appreciate you guys. If you guys have any other questions, just let the communications team know. Thanks, guys. God bless.
All right, so that was Florida's CFO as he was talking about a number of issues there in Manatee County. He shared this a little bit earlier on, saying, "This morning I'm personally boots on the ground in Orange County, chatting with our FAFO, Doge FLA reviewers who are looking for your waste right there." Meanwhile, we're also following some breaking news. This just in. Take a look at your screen. A 2.7 magnitude earthquake reportedly striking New Jersey Jersey, just outside of New York City at around 12:11 p.m. That is according to the U.S. Geological Survey. What we're going to do is we are going to gather more information and cover the details of this breaking news in just. Let's head back to the breaking news in New Jersey, where an earthquake has just struck, this right outside of New York City. In fact, Fox 5 New York is sharing this social media post right here saying a 2.7 magnitude earthquake has reportedly struck New Jersey just outside of New York City at around 12:11 p.m. Eastern time. That is according to the U.S. Geological Survey. And I wanted to share this live look with you as we take another look at this. This is the second earthquake in days to strike New Jersey and shake parts of New York. We brought you that first earthquake as breaking news on Sunday. Meanwhile, this is a live look right here of the skyline of New Jersey as we're gathering more information. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the earthquake struck at 12:11 p.m. Eastern time in Hillsdale, New Jersey. That is about 12 miles southwest of Manhattan. And a lot of reaction quick on social media platforms. In fact, one ex-user saying, "Why did my building just shake again?" This comes, as we mentioned, just days after a relatively mild 3.0 magnitude earthquake shook the New York metropolitan area on Saturday night. That happened at around 10:11 p.m. And so the timing of that was quite surprising, even though meteorologists and geologists said that it was a minor earthquake, a 3.0. The timing of that did surprise some people who were going to bed right here. So this just in, a 2.7 magnitude earthquake, according to meteorologists. That is considered mild. However, this is the second earthquake to strike this area in just a matter of days. And so we're going to monitor this. Previously, when we were discussing with a Fox weather meteorologist, they said that any aftershock would be very mild, if at all. So we did want to share that with you as we take a live look right there of the skyline in New Jersey. So we're continuing to follow this breaking news and bring you all of the updates as they happen. But a second earthquake in days strikes New Jersey and shakes part of New York. Any new information, we of course will let you know. This is breaking news. As of now, just according to reports from what we're reading, there are no reports of injuries or damage, but that of course, as you can imagine, is going to be something that folks assess. Officials are going to be taking a look at structural damage of any kind when it comes to tunnels and buildings as well as roads. So we did want to share that with you as we continue to follow this breaking news. At this hour, no reports of any injuries, no reports of any damage, but this really just happened minutes ago. So as you can imagine, this is a fluid situation, and of course, information could be changing right there. We also wanted to share this with you as well. This is from Fox Weather. They're asking folks, did you feel it? Another earthquake has rattled parts of the Northeast. The USGS says a magnitude 2.7 earthquake was reported near Hillsdale, New Jersey, just after noon today. So the second earthquake to happen, the first one being Sunday,